Welcome to the public meeting of the Policy and Development Committee. A reminder, please switch your mobile phones to silent. Three. There may be members of the public press attending the meeting virtually. Can I please ask those attending virtually to switch off your microphone to avoid any disruption during the meeting? The meeting is being recorded and will be available in due course on the council's YouTube channel. A gentle reminder to councillors to ensure that those attending virtually can hear the proceedings and the recording to capture the entire meeting. Please ensure that you project your voice and speak clearly. Please remember it is a formal meeting and therefore do not refer each other by first names. If I lapse into that, I'll make my apologies now, all right? Because I have a tendency to do that. And I the leader of the council was very stern on it, because that is what the last meeting we had. So can we now move on to item 1, please? Apologies.
Yes, Chair, I have apologies from councillors Bullard, Campbell, Hunt and Mackey.
Thank you. Item 2, to approve as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 8th of September as attached. Move second. All those in favour, please. That's carried. Thank you. Board declarations of
Item 3, Chair. Item 3.
Oh yes. Item brought forward in which in the opinion of the chair should be considered by the meeting as a matter of urgency. I have none. Item 4, declarations of interest.
I've received none, Chairman.
Thank you. 5, to agree the agenda between part A and part B, just part A. So because the slight misunderstanding we have. I coined working, you see, that's my first mistake. I so used to call it working. Yes, present. Let me take item 8 and unanimous. But take long, I hope, and could I pass over to Jeremy?
Chairman, that's very charitable. Bear in mind, I've been here quite a while already today. I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to go first on the agenda. So first of all, I'd like to share some reflections from the meeting that we had previously. I shared with you data from the Chief Medical Officer's report around a national position regarding health and wellbeing issues, deprivation issues, mental health issues around inward migration, the provision of statutory services in coastal communities, challenges around the economy, employment, education and housing. And then I overlaid the national picture with some data regarding the situation locally. And it was evident in many cases, unfortunately, that the issues that we saw manifesting at a national level were equally, if not more prevalent, sadly, in parts of our community, in our coastal communities. And what we've seen in recent times, and it is amazing how fluid the situation is, we have a changing dynamic in relation to Ilfracombe, one of our principal coastal communities, where the local system has needed to step up to support the delivery of a very significant asylum dispersal hotel that is now accommodating around 150 people of around 20 nationalities. Some of those people are presenting with needs that are then having a wider impact on the local system. So my reflection moving forward on the the commitment of this group to add value in the council's work in attending to the issues facing our coastal communities. We need to make sure that we set up work streams that add value. And in recent times, and this is by the necessity of the situation, new work streams have been set up to address some of the immediacy of the concern. So there is a multi-agency meeting, by way of example, that we currently convene now, that is looking at issues around asylum dispersal, migration into our coastal communities. There's further dialogue that we will be having next week with government, who are seeking to negotiate with us a quota of additional asylum seekers into our community to be accommodated in dispersed models of accommodation. So for me, there is a piece of work that needs to be undertaken now that looks at the areas of need that we recognise within our coastal communities, particularly around health, particularly around the economy, education, housing, and deprivation. But I need to come back to your committee and present to you the existing work streams that have now been commissioned, that have been put in place to address those areas of concern. Some of those work streams are specific to coastal communities, like the earthquake situation. Some of these work streams now, for example, the development of a new economic strategy for Northern Devon is across the wider piece. So I would ask for the opportunity to present a formal paper back to your committee, profiling the areas of need that exist within our coastal communities, outlaying all the current work streams that the council's embarked upon or intends to embark upon. Your committee then would be able to take a view as regards the adequacy of those work streams, the extent to which they pick up on all areas of need, and then maybe moving forward, your committee, your group, your smaller group would have an oversight and a coordinating responsibility of a whole variety of work streams that are either in place or imminently in place. And I sit here in front of your committee tonight to say that that is a piece of work that I need to undertake, and I don't have absolute certainty of the entire landscape. But I wouldn't want to be presenting a proposition to you tonight that creates another work stream which overlaps something that's already been in place, which could then cause internal conflict and tension. In the context of how busy we all are, that would make no sense at all.
Even before you said that, I picked it up some things from other people. I mean,
But the work of one Northern Devon in relation to health inequalities, improving the health status of the population. To what extent does that work stream then support this agenda? Are we content with it? Do we think we need to be doing something in addition, complementary to it? Should we have a coordinating oversight of that arrangement? That is quite a substantial piece of work. I've had conversations with Sarah Jane Kensington-Shapland and Nina, and we have scheduled a diary date to undertake that piece of work with a view to presenting a formal paper back to your committee. And in conversation with John Triggs, I believe your next committee is only a matter of maybe 3 weeks away. So I'm not seeking to delay the kind of development of this work. I just think it's really important that we do some work that adds value and doesn't.
we did it right at the beginning.
I think so. There's a little bit of research and sharing of information and work streams, which, you know, and sometimes in a big organisation like ours, we're not always joined up. We don't necessarily know what everyone has commissioned. I know most of it, but I don't have absolute certainty. I know the extent of all of those work streams. My colleagues are happy to support me in doing that work as regards to the needs that we've identified in our coastal communities. Then we come back and we can look at it in the round. Okay, we're content to have a coordinating responsibility. No, we're not happy here. We think there is a deficiency in a work stream addressing this particular issue. We'll embark on that because we've got confidence in these other areas being picked up. That feels like the right thing to do. But you know, so it's work that would need to be undertaken now to inform better your decision, I think, in, you know, anything that you would set up in commission from this group. So I appreciate it potentially is a delay of a few weeks, but I just think it would add real value to the process moving forward.
Does anyone on the committee want to ask any questions, suggestions? Because it is a moving piece. The government changes its position. The world do.
You know, I have not seen a world change so radically in relation to, you know, a few weeks ago, I presented to your committee challenges around migration.
Yeah.
And I didn't anticipate that I would be then presenting back to you this evening with such a fundamental change in that position. But that change has moving forward has the potential to change the demographic of our wider communities. If people are have their applications accepted, people could present to us for housing, and so we could see moving forward a changing demographic quite quickly in some of our coastal communities, and therefore there is a response that would need to be made then by the council in relation to that changing position.
Just one small point. What is the geographical area? Is it the whole of North Devon or literally the coastal communities?
So
Please.
I think it is a focus on our coastal communities, but I don't think we should particularly discriminate and shy away from an overview of our settlements away from, you know, Barnstable. So I think, you know, government takes the view that North Devon is a coastal community, the entire shooting match. I think our focus probably should be more on our immediate coastal communities, but I don't think we should limit it to that.
Jacob, I welcome this initiative. I mean, it's something that is desperately in need. Two very, very small but major points is that the problems were there before the people that arrived at the Duke. So we have problems in coastal communities, and it's not just based on ill-forgiveness. You so correctly said it's and different problems in different areas. That there are problems across the whole of the coastal community strip in North Devon that we need to look at. So I welcome it.
Thank you. Chairman, I think there's some really commendable work that the council has undertaken, and I could, Councillor Wilkinson is here, make reference to the CLT work in relation to his area. That's a really positive development in the council seeking to address housing needs in, it's a strand of work that seeks to address housing needs in our coastal communities, and all of these different streams that are ongoing need to be presented in light of your commendable concern for this issue. It's incumbent upon us as officers to present the picture of need to the existing work streams, and then for you to take a considered view then on the action that you would wish to take in relation to the picture that we present. If I'm honest, when I was having a conversation with a couple of colleagues, people were citing me work streams that I didn't have knowledge of, and I thought, because I probably should have known that.
Yeah.
So, but that's just, big organisation, sometimes how we get focused is sometimes, too narrow.
Councillor Room?
Just one question from what you said, Jeremy, is obviously looking at the landscape, so we're working in partnerships, so we're not duplicating any resources that are finite anyway at the moment. Would it not be an idea to then, once you've collated all the evidence, to present in an order of priority, such as what is this council's statutory responsibilities, such as presenting for housing, for all the needs that we have to supply as a council, so they become the priority action points, if you like. And then the secondary ones would be things where, health inequalities, so it's like the NHS, the primary, secondary care, with Devon County Council, with us as a joint venture. So we present a sort of a to prioritise those areas that we would have a statutory responsibility for as a North Devon Council.
Yeah.
And then where we could work with others, where we could actually induce a bit more input partnership, because then what that might allow us to focus with is areas where we might ask the government for funding.
Yeah.
So, for example, the Ilfracombe situation, where we've been forced into this situation, and what funding will follow that, because and also asking for funding, would it be better on a partnership basis, because obviously the NHS have pushed for that. I'll declare that I work for the NHS, by the way. So the schooling, so for schools, for school children, we've got a big problem there. What is that the sort of sense of priority that you would be putting into your sort of report?
Chairman, I'm more than happy to, where I'm able then to give some suggested level of prioritisation, and then also link then that area of need to the statutory responsibilities of the council. And housing would be a really clear example, where North Devon District Council is the only strategic housing authority for North Devon. Responsibilities for improving the health status of the population is a shared responsibility among a whole variety of partners. We're not the NHS. It's a different level of responsibility in those types of areas. So I could certainly, in reporting back to you, I could certainly tease out the areas where we are the lead agency, where we have that, where we should arguably be prioritising our resources, our focus, because of the duties of the organisation. Yeah, I think that's a really commendable suggestion.
In a sense, Ilfracombe is in the centre of the, well, we call it the storm, isn't it? Because of the the government said, you spoke to the government, gave an outline of the difficulties of being on the periphery of certain services, but the government still went forward. And now you hear in those House of Commons that some of them want to retract from that. It is a difficult situation we're in, but we are where we are. We must do our very, very best, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We made quite appropriate representations to government about the needs of our community, and those decisions were made that were contrary to the position that was recommended by the council. But we have a responsibility then to manage a situation that then arises for the people that are resident within that accommodation. But there is a wider impact then on the community, the wider community associated with that type of facility. And we have a duty then to manage those issues. And so it is, I was struggling with it personally to start off with, because on one hand, I've been kind of instrumental in crafting the response to government as regards to the inappropriateness of locating such a facility everything. And a few weeks later, then I'm chairing the multi-agency group that's looking at supporting the arrangements as they need to work out. It felt like but in my mind, I was getting pulled in two kind of different directions. But when we separate it, as soon as a decision is made, then it is quite appropriate, right, that we step up as a public authority to meet the needs of our wider population, wherever that population is.
I know you're up to here, but some of our members, including our vice chair, aren't here. If you could give them a very, brief outline where we're having to move in a different direction than what we were initially going to try to decide on tonight.
Chairman, I think it is a complementary piece of work. It's a bit of work that is a precursor to. So I don't think it's a change of direction of travel. With the benefit of hindsight and further reflection, I think this is a more considered approach, but it's certainly in the context of things that have developed more recently. I think it is definitely the right thing to do.
Just one technical thing. This committee has to report back at full council next week. And one of it is to appoint who's on the working party. But you seem to be suggesting, and I'm not against that because of the change situation, and because of absentee of members, we could postpone that.
I think that with your consent, it would be a deferment of those appointments pending consideration of a written paper at your next policy committee.
Councillor York.
Yeah, I was present at the last meeting. Could you explain a little bit more about this section about the 6 options presented to the council from the government regards to the development of suitable licensing regime, and will that involve the licensing department for this council? Is this about regular checks for all establishments?
Or housing licensing?
Yeah.
Or
Business rates? It's just the final
okay, so
paragraph before the recommendation at the end.
So the situation in relation to licensing is also changing in relation to particularly licensing of houses is a fluid situation, and the government has work streams in place now reviewing aspects of licensing and supported accommodation associated with decisions to save money. And that's again why I just need to do this kind of piece of work which brings us up to speed on all of these sorts of things, because the situation is so fluid. It is it's quite hard to keep up with. Maybe it's just the nature of the world that we work in now, and it's so influenced on occasion through external things such as kind of the media and panorama type things can then immediately prompt a new work stream that is
Very powerful, yes.
established. So there are new project members and work streams of government that are relevant to this wider agenda that I just need to keep pretty small.
Councillor Root, following on from that, Chairman. within my ward, my county ward, Devon County ward, out of the 457 communities in Devon, number one top ranking deprived area in the all of Devon is in Barnstaple North, which is in Barnstaple Central Ward in the district ward. It's the old St Mary's Way, Bear Street and all that area. That's the most deprived area. And I noticed that in the minutes of the last one, you were saying that there's still that migration into Barnstaple Central, if you like, Barnstaple Town. And it's also, what I don't want to say is get carried away with the issues just at Ilfracombe, because obviously, like you say, we're a district that's all coastal, and we have got problems in Barnstaple as well.
But the in migration, or the historic migration of people that are faring less well to cheaper private rented accommodation has influenced the society that exists in those communities. So Barnstaple is very similar to Ilfracombe,
Yes. Going back to the other one, the second part of the question was, as a local authority, do we have any powers on the conditions of the facilities within that hotel? Or do we, in other words, are they appropriate for families, or is the facilities appropriate? We've heard what's happened at Manston, and it's like people living in really poor conditions. Do we have a statutory duty as a council to go in and inspect those properties? Or is it just all become all of a sudden run by the Home Office? Or can we actually go in and see the conditions of what people are living?
So is it possible that we could go to Part B, so I could just report?
Yeah. Luke from the chair, we go to Part B. I'll move to Part B, yeah. Second. All those in favour? No, sure.
Report. So we could officially move back into part A now, Chair,
Yes.
please, with the vote.
Yeah, I'll move, Mr. Chairman, we move in
Second.
part A.
All those in favour? Unanimous.
And you can discuss what's going to happen with the report coming forward the next meeting. Just make it vote on that.
Quite clearly, Jeremy will report back as soon as possible, hopefully in 3 weeks' time, but due that the way this has gone, that might not be so. We understand that we need flexibility in this because it's got more complicated than we thought, as opposed to things tightening up as we thought.
As officers, we are anxious on your work stream in addressing coastal deprivation.
Yes.
And we want to make sure through this additional piece of work that I will carry out with my colleagues that we do that in the most efficient way, and not just giving me that time just to capture all the work streams.
Yes.
And reporting back.
Not forgetting the things when the ship sailed, it was a very different crew of objectives. Now they've been broadened out by recent events. And I thank Councillor Williamson for coming to this meeting this evening. At so short notice, and you know who you're. We hope to see you. I don't know if you, if you don't find. So that.
So I had a choice of Bristol Bears, South Africa tonight, coming to see you.
What more? What more do we
Sorry,
sacrifice?
sorry, Chair, can we just take a vote on that now? And what you've agreed, we just need to vote.
Yeah.
On it, please.
We agree. Can you just read it out to us, Kelly?
I'll try. So basically, Jeremy's going to come back the next committee with a paper outlining all of the work streams and everything that they want to do as part of the working group.
So I will outline within my paper the needs that we've identified that are relevant to our coastal communities, the existing work streams that have been commissioned that we intend to set up to address those needs. That will allow this committee critical appraisal of that situation, and it will guide us how we need to move forward, whether it is a coordinating role, whether we identify an area of need that doesn't have a work stream and It would make sense to second that.
All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy.
But you can have the vote of the chair.
I understand.
Thank you.
I very much understand. You had a very, very time.
Even if we just decide what the next is.
We wish you well. Members, we move on to, item six, this year, Treasury Manager report. When I've got this right, is Adam is going to kick off this time, Adam?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, good evening, members. The council treasury strategy for 22-23 was agreed by full council back in February. This is the mid-year review report, which is looking to make some amendments to that strategy and to give members an update on the current treasury position. The table in section 4.1 on page 16 sets out the proposed changes to this strategy. The forecast capital requirement, financing requirement, or underlying need of borrow for capital purposes increases from 29 million to 25 million. This is due to slippages in the capital programme for schemes such as the Severn Brethren redevelopment and Green Lanes capital improvements. Also, the forecast external borrowing with the operational borrowing boundary decreases from 25 million to 11 million. Again, this is due to the reduced capital expenditure and the higher year-end cash flow projections. There is also a change to the upper limit on borrowing between 12 months and 2 years to allow greater flexibility for short-term borrowing. Given the current economic uncertainty and the interest rate forecast show bank rate is expected to fall in a couple of financial years' time. So the council's underlying need to borrow is forecast to be 25 million at the end of the financial year, funded by 9 million of external borrowing, 1.5 million of finance leases for the vehicle fleet, and the remaining 14.5 million from internal borrowing of our own cash flows and reserves. Internal borrowing remains the most prudent and cost-effective approach to any slippages in the capital programme or improvements to our cash flow positions will reduce the amount of external borrowing that we actually undertake. The recent changes to bank rate have improved our investment returns, with 60,000 being received in the first half year period compared to the budget for the year of 35,000. Our investment portfolio yield was 0.59% compared to our new benchmark Sunday rate of 1.19%. Using the cash flow balances for internal borrowing has also reduced the borrowing costs, and we are currently projecting an underspend of 160,000 on our interest payable. Chief Finance Officer confirms that the council is operating within the Treasury with potential indicators of the Treasury strategy. I'd like to refer members back to the recommendation in section 2. Happy to take any questions.
Thomas, member? Hello?
Just a quick one, so thank you very much. You've got a lovely clear report. Reasonable position to find ourselves in.
And right, we know the report. Members, all those in favour?
Just need to know the recommendations.
Oh,
We just need to know the recommendations
yes,
to council from strategy and resources.
Okay. all in favour, members? Thank you. Very much. You had the same right as, John, didn't you?
Yes, that's what yeah.
There's one more. Don't say any more. Thank you. Now, if I'm right, it's Tony now going to take over. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Chairman. Evening, members. I'm here to present the 42 performance report. Recommendations are detailed in your report in 2.1 to 2.6. These are on page 29. Firstly, I'd like to run through the revenue position. The forecast budget surplus of 41. The quarter 2 is £40,000. Variances making up that surplus are shown in Appendix A, page 41 to 42. The original budget included a forecast to achieve £250,000 worth of vacancy savings. Current forecast is that we're exceeding this by 191,000. This increase is mainly due to the timing of filling capacity building posts throughout 22-23. Temporary accommodation is under additional cost pressures. The estimated pressure has increased the cost to a £200,000 adverse variance, which in year has been mitigated by a contribution from the homelessness earmark reserve. The joint building control partnership with Mid Devon is showing a decline in income and increase in costs. This is mainly due to the use of agency staff and due to the challenges they're having at the moment with recruitment. So that trading account is now forecasting a deficit for the council of £67,000, but this includes utilising a £50,000 contribution from the building control. The largest variance in Appendix A is the £804,000 in relation to the National Pay Award, which has now been agreed. This is over and above the £280,000 already given to the base budget. Pay award is based on the £1,925 for all the full-time equivalents. Other inflationary pressures include additional fuel costs across our fleet for £104,000 and additional energy costs of £63,000. In light of all the above costs, we've managed to achieve a pretty much break-even position by utilising the budget management reserve, which gives us a one-off in-year protection of £936,000. From 23-24 onwards, we won't have this one-off protection, and the inflationary pressures experienced this year will start to break the 23-24 budget gap. Further to the utilisation of the budget management reserve, we do propose to put £400,000 back into this reserve as a transfer from the collection fund reserve. This will hopefully mitigate any future budget fluctuations that we may experience. This still leaves us £800,000 in the collection fund reserve to protect us against future volatility. This level of reserve protects the council against a 40% share of a £2 billion overall movement within the business rate scheme. We're still waiting for confirmation of the final award in relation to the Yelland planning appeal. So at this stage, that's not included in the figures, but separately we'll come back to members when the final figures have been agreed. Moving on to borrowing, at the end of September, borrowing still at £3 billion. Slippages in the capital programme and capital spend for future years has enabled us to borrow internally more than we originally thought. It has resulted, as Adam mentioned, in £160,000 forecast reduction in loan interest. And as part of the Q2 report, we've proposing to replace this into a Treasury Management Reserve, which will protect us and mitigate against future higher interest rates maybe as we move into 23-24. And all those entries in relation to the reserves will all be found in Appendix B, pages 43 to 45. Now we move on to the capital programme. The overall variations to the 22-23 capital programme is a minus nearly £6 million. These are detailed in 4.4.3 of your report, and the majority of these tie in with what Adam mentioned in the earlier report and our slippages to later years. There are also 4 PAG bids for this quarter, including harbour infrastructure of 430,000, Ilfracombe Multiple Central Commercial Complex for 177,000, ICT for 9 businesses of 70,000, and additional money for the repairs at the Fremerton River Wall of 51,000. 23-24 capital programme has also been varied by 1.15 million for Severn Brethren Flood Defence Scheme, and this was fully funded by Section 106 contributions. All these changes take the 22-23 capital programme to just over 12.8 million, and the 23-24 capital programme to just over 14.7 million. Spend as at 30th September is just over 3.5 million. The capital programme in total now stands at just over 29 million and is funded by capital receipts or borrowing of 11.1 million, external grants and contributions of 15.3 million, and our internal earmarks of nearly 2.7 million. The details of all these schemes can be found in Appendix D on pages 49 to 52. We then move on to treasury management, debt management and general debtors. And the details of these can be found in sections 4.5 to 4.7. There are also service plan actions and KPIs, key performance indicators, and these are detailed in Appendix E. Members, that concludes the presentation of the Quarter 2 performance report. Thanks, any questions?
Questions, members?
I've just got,
Councillor Room?
Mr. Chairman, basically, taking a lot out of reserves. I bet, well, quite a lot out of reserves. I'm just thinking, we will all have a presentation by Mr. Triggs, won't be very soon, about making some difficult choices for the next year's budget. I think that is, when is it planning to do that? That's full council. Full council. So it is very prudent that I asked this question informally the other day. So, but what is the, so you know we can go 1.99 or the £5. How much more is the £5 over the percentage? In other words, we would most probably be presenting £35.
I think, I don't think the calculations have been done because we don't have a final budget position yet. But generally, I think for our size authority, the £5 is slightly higher than the 1.99%. I don't think there's much of it.
Yeah, and the as I understand it from today's budget, that it doesn't take our authority, it's only principal authorities we have social care, is that right? Or has it not been made clear yet?
I don't think it's been made clear yet. I think the settlement that comes out just before Christmas.
Yeah.
Will be able to be identified whether we're allowed to go above those levels. Yeah. I think we were hoping it would be mentioned today, but they didn't. I think they wanted it to come out with a settlement.
John sent us all an email today that he needs sort of budget. Yeah, it's okay, thank you.
Any other questions, members? I understand it being therefore endorse the decisions made at the specialty meeting. And that's already in print for our meeting next week. Can I someone to approve it, please? Thank you, Councillor. And second, all those in favour? Thank you. That was slightly shorter than the other. Thank you very much, both of you. Not an easy job. Members, therefore, we move on to the work programme. I don't know, I guess you've all hopefully looked at it. Is there any changes you want to make to that, or any observations? We'll take it up to the questions next year.
Only, Mr. Chairman, we'll ask the clerk, will it affect any of the decision earlier on item 8? Will that affect what was in the work programme, or is it already in?
That item will be added to the work programme
Yeah.
for the next meeting.
Thank you. Happy with what we've got already? We can always change it. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much.